Good morning, everyone. Mike's MMA Picks here with your Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown Show brought to you by BetDSI as well as MMA Oddsbreaker. We're here for UFC Vegas 15, what once was Curtis Blaydes versus Derek Lewis is now Devin Clark versus Anthony Smith. So there's been some major shakeups on this card. 5 of 10 fights are expected to finish. Let's get right into things. Quickly, want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you for liking and subscribing, and also pay attention to where you get your advice. Check the third-party tracked record, and thank you for tuning in. First fight of the night, we head to a catchweight bout between Luke Sanders and Nate Maness. This is a fascinating fight between a fighter from Arizona who spent time in Tennessee. Luke Sanders fights out of Fight Ready, coming in with a significant reach disadvantage here against a volume striker in Maness. Sanders coming in with an $8,400 price tag and DraftKings minus 115 betting favorite. 13-3 record. You watch Luke Sanders fights. He's been in there with some top-tier competition, has made some real bonehead mistakes in the past. Maness, 12-1 record, 7,800 in DK, plus 120 underdog. Maness worked his way through the Kentucky regional scene. He's a roofer by trade and hasn't fought the level of competition that Luke Sanders has. Luke Sanders, better athlete, stronger fighter, better cardio, has wrestling background, also, believe it or not, won some BMX championships back in the day, played ice hockey, won a few state championships. That's not going to help you capping this fight, though. As far as this fight in particular, you have a Luke Sanders who was supposed to fight Chris Gutierrez back in July, but his significant other had a high-risk pregnancy. They had to scrap that fight, and now he's a proud father coming in to take on Maness. I see in this fight Sanders coming in, closing the distance, possibly could get his lights shut off by Maness. Maness has power. He also is a good range fighter when he's out there. He is susceptible to being taken down. If Luke Sanders' corner is sharp, they're going to have a grappling heavy game plan here. Can't trust Luke Sanders to do that, but I'm going to be picking Luke Sanders to win this fight. I think the level of competition and just the caliber, there's a difference in the caliber of fighter here. I'll be picking Luke Sanders to get the job done. Next fight, we've got Malcolm Gordon taking on Sue Mudaerji. Mudaerji, 125-pounder for this fight, dropping down where he really lit Andre Sukumta up like a Christmas tree last time out. Malcolm Gordon, 7,100 plus 255 underdog, 12-4 record. You look at his record, he's got a bunch of submissions. And you watch Mudaerji's fights, and Mudaerji is susceptible to being submitted. A few other things about this fight. Mudaerji is a long, rangy striker who does have legitimate power, and he has fought out of a decent camp out of ATT, but has spent this time between COVID and now up in Dagestan. You watch Mudaerji fight, much more fluid fighter. Malcolm Gordon, I have some real concerns the way he absorbs strikes. He has crumpled up in the past. He's been TKO'd a number of times. I don't see this one going the distance. In my book, it's either Malcolm Gordon wins this fight by submission or Mudaerji wins this fight by TKO. I am going to lean towards Mudaerji getting the fight done inside the distance by TKO. And another flyweight fight in the books. Love those flyweight fights. Next up, We head to the 145-pound division where we have Kai Kamaka taking on Jonathan Pearce. Jonathan Pearce, last time out, we saw him get his arm basically torn off by Joe Lauzon. Joe Lauzon ended up putting Pearce in the hospital, had to have shoulder surgery. Little known fact, Kai Kamaka has also had a number of shoulder injuries that have sidetracked his career. Jonathan Pearce, 28 years old, $7,000 in DK, plus 240 underdog. You have Pearce coming in, the bigger, longer fighter. Kai Kamaka, 8-2 record, 9,200 in DK, minus 310 betting favorite. You watch the LFA fights by Kai Kamaka, and you see that he is the total package out there. You watch this fight against Kelly, and was really having his way with Kelly early, and then just ended up hitting a wall. Kelly could really take the damage, and then came back and turned the tide. I do have concerns that Jonathan Pearce may come out here and be able to weather an early storm and hang in there. Pearce, though, you watch his fights and his resume, he has a lot of TKOs out there looking to push a pace. Both of these fighters are going to come out hot, and it's just a matter of whose will is going to be broken. This fight's expected to go to a decision at minus 150, but I would not be surprised to see this fight end inside the distance. I think Kai Kamaka is going to come in, even though he hasn't had a full camp. Pearce was originally set up to fight Woodson and could not. Woodson ended up pulling out of that fight. He has to drop another 10 pounds to get down to Kamaka. They both made weight. I'm going to be picking Kai Kamaka to win this fight. I think he's just a more well-rounded, more durable fighter. And you look at Pearce, a lot of his wins are against subpar competition, and he was ragdolled, mollywopped by Joe Lauzon. So give me Kai Kamaka there. Next up, we head to the women's 125-pound division where we have Rachel Ostovich, a 4-5 fighter, taking on Gina Mazany, 6-4 fighter. This is bottom of the barrel when it comes to talent in the UFC, and this fight's expected to go to a decision at minus 185. You have Mazany, who, I mean, let's face it, I thought her job was on the line a number of times, and she just keeps coming back. Was run through by Julia Avila last time out. Mazany coming in with a big reach advantage here, 8,600 in DK, minus 195 betting favorite. You heard that correctly. She's Mazany now a minus 195 betting favorite. The line has widened, and I wouldn't go out of my way to put money on Mazany in this spot. 7,600 in DK for Ostovich, plus 155 underdog. Ostovich has a ground game to speak of that has brought her most of her success. I have concerns about the cardio of both fighters here, and you're going to see a sloppy fight. Mazany, I have to lean towards her getting the job done because she has been the more active fighter despite being run through. She's also, when you watch her out there, she's going to be the bigger fighter with a better camp, and I just think she can do more in 15 minutes. It pains me to break down this fight because it should not be at the UFC level, but these are the cards we're dealt right now. We have to make some picks here. Let's head up the card. So we head to the men's 135-pound division where we have Martin Day taking on Anderson Dos-Santos. Anderson Dos-Santos is a seasoned veteran of the sport with a 20-8 record. Coming off of back-to-back losses, you have Martin Day with a 3-inch reach advantage. Martin Day's been he's been KO'd a few times out there. I liked what I saw from him as far as a cardio standpoint on Contender Series. He has been stopped a few times in the past, though. 8,800 in DK for Day. What's priced into that, the pace that Martin Day puts on. It's a hellacious pace out there. He's got some beautiful kickboxing, but he's a brittle fighter. And at -170, I think that's taking a significant risk here against Anderson Dos-Santos. The line has been falling. 7,400 plus 140 underdog for Dos-Santos, 35 years old. You look up and down Dos-Santos' record. He's taken out such fighters as Ricky Simon with a rear naked choke, and he's very dangerous. He's got a ground game that Day's gonna have to worry about. The difference maker in this fight, I've tweeted out in the past how cardio can be used as a weapon, and I think that Martin Day is going to look to use his cardio as a weapon in this spot, do his best to stay at range and pick Anderson Dos-Santos apart, and that can happen. So I'll be picking Martin Day to win that fight. Next up, we head to the women's 135-pound division, where we have Norma Dumont dropping down from featherweight to bantamweight. Norma Dumont, only a 4-1 record, but you watch what she brings to the table. She comes to us from a Sanda background. So you've got Sanda is kind of like a Chinese kickboxing type of martial art, but you're allowed to incorporate throws and takedowns. If you have a chance, I suspect, or I encourage you to check out some Sanda championships on the internet. Pretty cool martial art. And I'm surprised we don't see more successful Sanda fighters coming to the UFC. What's interesting, though, is Dumont came from Brazil, and you'd think she would have a jiu-jitsu background, but she does have some submissions on her record, and she's taking on an Ashley Evans-Smith, who she is coming up from 125 pounds, where she looked like she was caught in quicksand against Andrea Lee. And what's amazing to me, you watch Ashley Evans-Smith's interviews to this fight, and she talks about being the much more agile fighter, having better footwork, etc. And I just don't see that. Ashley Evans-Smith had circles run around her against Andrea Lee. And Norma Dumont, I think that she's in this fight. And you watch the fight against Megan Anderson, and I don't think we can draw a lot of information from that fight. Megan Anderson is such a strange, awkward fighter, and you can see Norma Dumont trying to get the body lock and the takedown, and she was able to do so for a second, but then Megan Anderson was just a little too long in that spot. Ashley Evans-Smith is a high-level women's collegiate wrestler, but she's a long way from that now at 33 years of age. She actually went to school with Carla Esparza. This fight, closely lined fight. I'll be picking Norma Dumont. I think she's going to be the stronger fighter in the clinch. And when it comes to ground fighting, I want to see what happens down there. If Dumont, how she's able to handle herself if she's placed on her back. I think we don't have enough as far as evidence-based practice goes to ensure a quality pick in this spot. But due to the limited tape, I'm going to be picking Norma Dumont here. Next up, we head to the men's 145-pound division, where we have Bill Algeo taking on Spike Carlyle. This, in my eyes, is the people's main event out there. You've got Spike Carlyle, who last faced Mr. Billy Quarantillo, and that was fought at a catchweight bout. This fight, 145 pounds. Spike Carlyle took a loss last time out, but really had himself in a great position to win the fight and had some bonehead decision making, and that's something that you'll see out of Spike Carlyle. He is willing to take risks, and that's a dangerous proposition against a fighter like Bill Algeo, who is a well-rounded fighter who has some pretty high fight IQ. 31 years old, 13-5 record for Algeo, 7,300 in DK plus 155 underdog. 31 years of age, so he's been in the game for a while. He looked I don't want to say looked phenomenal, but he hung in there against Ricardo Lamas on short notice and had his moments. Spike Carlyle is going to be the stronger fighter here, 8,900 minus 185 betting favorite. This fight, if Spike Carlyle isn't able to take Algeo out of there, he could come in here and really push the pace and dominate Algeo from a strength and grappling perspective. Despite Algeo being the black belt in jiu-jitsu, I think I've been really impressed with Carlyle in his fights. Only problem is he tends to run into a wall if he can't get you out of there, and then he hits that wall and the cardio goes awry, makes some bonehead decisions. So fascinating fight. I think we have Spike Carlyle early or Bill Algeo late. I'll be picking Spike Carlyle to win this fight, though. Next up, we head to the men's 170-pound division, where we have Takashi Sato taking on Miguel Baeza. Sato, 16-3 record, 7,500 in DraftKings, plus 155 underdog, 30 years of age, Japanese fighter who is a striker by trade. This fight's not expected to go to a decision at minus 245 currently, 8,700 on the other side of the fight for Baeza. This line had closed to a point where Baeza could have been had for about minus 160, minus 155, but has since widened a little bit. Baeza, undefeated fighter, fighting out of MMA Masters. He was in there with Matt Brown, who is a tough out, and was able to take him out of there. But what I have concerns watching Baeza fight. He doesn't move his head well, and he could potentially get caught in a spot. I know we haven't seen him take a loss here, but when I watch Baeza fight, I see a fighter who's still a bit green. On the Contender Series, he had his moments and really looked like he was going to finish early, but couldn't, and was pushed to the distance. This fight, I don't see it going the distance. I think that it's going to turn into a firefight on the feet. Sato doesn't throw for great volume. He's going to look to pick his spots here. And Baeza, I think he's just going to do a little bit more here, but there's a potential that he gets caught. So this I agreed with the fight being lined a little bit more closely. I'm going to be picking Baeza to win this fight late. Next up, we head to the co-main event of the evening. This, believe it or not, is a shocker to me that this fight's even taking place at the UFC level, where we have Parker-Porter, a 10-6 fighter who's really ballooned up, 7,200 plus 165 underdog, coming in here at a big reach disadvantage. He's got these huge tree trunk legs, looks to wade in, and his job has been on the line. I'm surprised he got another shot here against Josh Parisian. Parisian 13-3 record, but that is deceiving. He's taken losses on the regional scene also. $9,000 minus 205 betting favorite for Parisian. I am not impressed with Parisian out there. You saw him take out basically a light heavyweight in his recent Contender Series fight, and he's a tough guy who wades forward, looks to use his size as an advantage, and this fight, it's going to be a slobber knocker. Who is going to fall first? This fight's not expected to go to a decision at minus 495. I've seen Parisian get run through earlier in his career by lesser fighters than Parker-Porter, and it is a dangerous proposition when you're putting money on these middling heavyweights. So I'll be picking Parisian to win in this spot, simply because Porter, his career in my eyes, should have been finished a long time ago, but he is really receiving a gift in this spot to come in here and be offered a chance to perform at the UFC level. He, last time out against Daukaus, weighed in at 290 pounds. And, well, he didn't weigh in at that much, but that's how much he weighed when he got the call, and had to cut a ton of weight to make the 265 limit, and barely did so. This fight still looks very, both of these guys, massive, massive guys, tipping the scales. So give me Parisian to win in a sloppy heavyweight affair. Now, main event of the evening. It's a shame this is the main event of the evening, but we play with the cards that were dealt, and we have Anthony Smith taking on Devin Clark. Anthony Smith, 8,500 in DK, minus 140, betting favorite over at BetDSI. Devin Clark, 7,700 plus 110 underdog. 30 out of 33 of Anthony Smith's wins have come inside the distance. And Anthony Smith has suffered 16 professional defeats. 13 of those have come inside the distance. So he is, for the most part, a kill or be killed fighter. You watch Devin Clark, he is going to look to come in here, implement a wrestling heavy game plan. He's done that in many of his fights. Devin Clark does not have a great chin. He watched the fight against Alexander Rakic, where he is just on Queer Street for minutes after that fight. Took him a long, long time to come to. And knockouts like that, they stick with you throughout your career. You watched it through many, many fighters who've suffered them. Had some modicum of success recently. The Metafield fight, you saw some solid fight IQ, actually absorbed some significant strikes en route to a unanimous decision victory in that spot. Half of Devin Clark's victories have come via decision. This fight is going to, or it's been extended to 5 rounds now. So you're asking a lot for these fighters to go an extra 10 minutes inside of the octagon. And when fights do get extended, we've seen Anthony Smith typically prevail. And he's a dangerous fighter. This fight is inside of the smaller octagon. I wrote Anthony Smith off in his last fight, and Rakic proved us right, even as Rakic was a big favorite in that spot. So in this fight, this is a dangerous fight. I think if it was a 3-round fight, I would be more apt to lean towards Devin Clark. But since it's being extended, and with Mark Montoya in Anthony Smith's corner, I think he's going to meet some serious adversity early, and then will turn the tide and win this fight late. So give me Anthony Smith to win. I want to thank everybody for tuning in this morning. Trying to get this one out a little bit earlier than usual. Want to wish everybody a phenomenal fight day, and want to say go get what's yours. So you can check out my premium plays at MMA Oddsbreaker Premium. You can also check me out on betmma.tips. That's where I third-party track everything. Go get what's yours, my friends. Enjoy the fights, and we'll see you soon.